This is Lehigh Valley Political Pulse. I'm Chris Borick, director of the Muhlenberg College Institute of Public Opinion. Today is primary day, when the Democratic and Republican parties select their nominees for the November election. The results will shape some key local races here in the Lehigh Valley. Most weeks, political reporter Tom Shortell bombards me with questions. But with today's election, I'm flipping the script. I'll be asking Tom about a packed primary season that culminates today as local voters head to the polls. Are you ready, Tom?
As ready as I'll ever be.
That's good. We're rolling. Okay, let's start with primaries in the Lehigh Valley's two biggest cities, Allentown and Bethlehem. Incumbent mayors in both cities are receiving significant challenges in their party primaries. How are those races playing out, Tom?
It's interesting. In both cities, you're seeing the incumbents kind of accusing their challengers of being operatives for the opposite party. We saw that in both debates that we hosted here at the Univest Public Media Center. And in one of those cases, it's somewhat fair. Ed Zuckel, lifelong Democrat, is openly courting the Republican nomination at this point, encouraging Republicans to write his name on the ballot. And he will need that to happen, most likely. I think most people expect Mayor Matt Turk to win the Democratic primary, but there isn't a Republican challenger on the ballot, which sets a pretty low threshold. Ed Zuckel only needs, I believe, 100 votes, legitimate votes, to win the Republican nomination, and he's actively courting it right now. So that means that we're probably going to get a rematch of this in November. On the Democratic side, you have Councilwoman Grace Crampsey Smith, who is vehemently denying that she's a Republican, but by challenging Mayor Willie Reynolds, Reynolds is using that to kind of cast her as this Republican type candidate, and she has pushed back on that vigorously. I'm not aware of her courting Republican votes. In fact, she has said that she would not vote in November if there was a Republican challenger and it was between that unknown Republican and Willie Reynolds. That I wouldn't vote for. I probably wouldn't vote for either of you. So she's made her distaste known of the status quo and Mayor Reynolds known. And that's kind of what this is about. It seems to be a pushback within the parties against the status quo. Zuckel is no love lost for Matt Turk. I think we can safely put Grace Crampsey Smith in the same category with Mayor Reynolds. And so they are pushing back against what's happening. I don't think either of them has done the best job of painting an alternate vision of what the city could be or their city could be. But we'll see if that's enough for voters to buy into.
Yeah, Tom, you mentioned that for the incumbents tagging their Democratic challengers as Republicans or Republicans hiding as stealthy Democrats is a strategy. What's the strategy for Zuckel and Crampsey in terms of targeting these incumbent mayors that they're trying to knock off?
So Grace Crampsey Smith has gone after Reynolds for the way he's operating. The kind of like she's not necessarily opposed to what he's doing. It's how he's getting there. She's criticized him for spending too much, for relying too much on consultants as opposed to the in-house expertise or the awareness and experience that's already in the community as a whole. And so she's criticizing him for how he's trying to get to this place, which I think she's more or less on board with, trying to make the city more affordable, trying to improve quality of life. She's criticizing him for kind of these high budgets that we've seen under his administration. Large part of that is because there's been a lot of federal funding floating down. And so, like, there's money to spend. So you're not going to see too many local folks turn down what's essentially free money. And so, and so that's where a lot of that spending has come from. But she has kind of seized on that. Um, Councilman Zuckel in Allentown seems to just have almost like a personal beef more so with the way Turk has been operating. Now, there are a lot of potential warts on the Turk administration. He's been his administration has been accused of discrimination by the local chapter of the NAACP. There have been some real issues with the police department. Most of these predate him, but they've come to light under his tenure. There have been questions about public safety and the data that's being driven there. Zuckel has accused it of not being reflective of reality. I don't know if he's necessarily done a great job of proving that. There hasn't been any statistics or anything along those lines to show that that's not there. But so they are pushing back in some ways personally against these candidates and the way that they're presenting themselves. Zuckel has tried to argue that Zuckel's trying to walk a fine line, I think, between arguing that Mayor Turk is over focusing on the Latino population and catering, or some might argue pandering to that group. I don't know if that's how most city residents perceive that, but that is something that Zuckel has kind of played up. He was talking about trying to be a mayor for everyone. He hasn't always said that very well, and that's kind of opened up a window for Turk to present him as the MAGA candidate, kind of the all lives matter type arguments.
It's going to be fascinating to see how these play out, Tom. But there's more. At the county level, there will be open seats for county executive positions in both Lehigh and Northampton counties in this November's election. This spring, there are competitive primaries on the Democratic side in Northampton County and Republican side in Lehigh County. What's happening in those key races?
So the Northampton County one, and that's where I've covered the longest of all my beats in the Lehigh Valley, Northampton County government. And it's almost like a proxy race against Lamont McClure, who is not on the ballot. He's been county executive for 8 years now. He has decided that he will not seek a third term, that he's going to run for Congress instead. But a lot of the issues that are coming up there are directly related to his administration and the policies that he has followed. You have the candidate that he has endorsed, Controller Tara Zrinski, who is who should be familiar to voters in the area. She is she's been very successful in getting elected at the county level and has frequently run for state level offices to no success thus far. But the frequency of that means that she's been on the ballot 6 of the last 9 years, I believe. So I think there's one of the knocks that have been made against her is that she is just this perennial candidate who is more interested in career advancement than that. Whether that's fair or not, that's up for voters to decide. She is being opposed by Amy Cozy, who previously worked as the county registrar, so overseeing elections for a few years in Northampton County. She had a messy falling out with the McClure administration. She went on to work for former U.S. Senator Bob Casey, where she worked there for a few years. She is now running against Zrinski. She's not as well known, partly because she hasn't run as many times as Zrinski, but she has run in the past. She ran for a state representative a few years ago. I was up in like the Slate Belt area. It was a very difficult race for Democrats, but so she ran Northampton County and the Northampton County elections during her tenure there. That's when they selected excuse me, I'm getting ahead of myself. while she was working for the McClure administration, but before she became registrar, they bought the new election machines, the voting machines, the touchscreens. Those have not always worked well. There have been some problems with elections in Northampton County the last few years. None of the major issues came up during her time as registrar. So I think she's trying to argue that she's the competent candidate, the one that knows county government. We'll see how that goes. But she's been endorsed by Susan Wild, who isn't the most thrilled person with Lamont McClure at the moment. Wild has also backed a candidate that is running against McClure in that congressional seat. So it's kind of this inner jockeying within the Democratic Party in Northampton County.
Good. Just a couple quick words about the Republican race over in Lehigh County. Anything particular happening there?
Yeah, that's another interesting one. In that race, you have the candidates are doing their best not to beat up on each other. The Democratic candidate who's unchallenged is State Representative Josh Siegel, who is something of anathema to conservatives. And so you have Roger McLean, the former Allentown police chief, former city councilman, very briefly acting mayor during the Ed Pawlowski fallout. He's being challenged by former Allentown school board director Mike Welsh, and they are kind of jockeying to see which of them is the better candidate. Welsh is quick to point out that McLean has switched party registration to run as a Democrat for city council, went back to being a Republican to run this race. He's been accused of not being a real Republican in that regard. McLean is kind of trying to present himself as the more experienced, more approachable candidate. I'm not sure if that Welsh is not exactly frothing at the mouth, or he's not a screaming or some of the more aggressive MAGA candidates that we've seen from Republican parties, but he is trying to still make that distinction from Welsh, who is running a little further to the right.
Great. All right. We're going to do a little bit of I always wanted to do this, a little lightning round.
Okay.
Here in our last few minutes, because there's a lot more to talk about. Okay, school board primaries occurring across the Lehigh Valley districts this month. In the past few years, school board elections have become quite heated and perhaps more ideological than in the past. What are you seeing in this cycle? Quickly on that one.
People are kind of taking a deep breath, it feels like, for a moment. Now, there are still some heated races out there. I live in the Northampton area school district. There's some high emotions there, but it's not the partisan battles that we've seen in the past. I think people are, after 2 years ago, people are kind of calming down, trying to let the blood pressure drop after some intense battles.
Yeah, I see the same thing playing out. Okay, over the last few weeks, Tom, you have been busy moderating debates across numerous Lehigh Valley primary races. Are there any common themes that emerge from these venues that you have noticed?
Oh, yes, but that's kind of because we were asking the questions, and so they have to respond to our themes. But one of the things that we touched on over and over again is housing. The cost of living has gone up so high in the Lehigh Valley, and so we've kind of been pushing them on what are you going to do about this? And there's no really easy answer to that. I know in Bethlehem they have made an effort to do that. But yeah, so like that. So during these debates, we kind of get to set the tones, and it's and frankly, I think that people should expect that of their officials. You should be able to go up to someone and say, "What are you going to do about this?" And don't let them talk about their talking points. They're there to serve you.
It's an enormous issue. We've talked about that a lot. And the last question, Tom. We've discussed the nationalization of local politics quite a bit on the show over the last year. Do you see national politics playing a significant role in our primary elections in the Lehigh Valley this year?
Yeah, I do. In the Republican primary for executive, there's this argument about ICE and cooperating with them. by some definitions, ICE's mostly, neither county is terribly cooperative. I think both counties will tell you they are abiding by the law. They're notifying ICE when there's people that they're detaining that ICE wants. So they're letting them know where they are, and if they get a warrant, they will happily hold them for them. But ICE generally isn't thrilled with that setup. And the other races, Medicaid and the potential government spending cuts is a high-profile issue because that will affect how these local governments are able to operate.
That's politics reporter Tom Shortell. This has been Lehigh Valley Political Pulse. I'm Chris Borick.